You've been lied to. In this video, I'm going to prove the existence of God, destroy your programmed perception of Christianity, Bible, hell. Then I will prove to you that you are already in hell and give you a step-by-step guide on how to escape. Stay with me, and all I ask is your attention without premature judgment. It will be raw, it will be messy, backed by science, scriptures, and a big bucket of very basic logic. No PhD required. From the moment people learned they could gather a crowd by talking about heaven and hell, belief became a system. Not a path to the truth, but a system with ranks, uniforms, and taxes disguised as donations. And for every person who searched for meaning and purpose, 10 others figured out how to sell them a course, a book, a belief, back to them with a huge markup. You walk into a cathedral or any religious megachurch around the world, and you can almost feel centuries of brand management. The lighting, the music, the stage, and the peaceful curators strolling in their neat clothes. It's like an Apple-like psychology with some incense. It makes people feel small, then promises salvation if they stay loyal to the brand and assist with payroll. And the trick worked because it answered two of the humanity's biggest fears and biggest questions. Well, what happens when I die? What is the purpose? Maybe who is in charge? If you can control those answers, you can control everything underneath: money, marriage, and even which hand someone uses to cross themselves and in which order. Let's start with the Bible. It wasn't downloaded from heaven. It was built together across centuries by people with agendas, politics, and payrolls. When Constantine called the bishops back in 325 AD, the move was advertised as unity and peace. But it also moved interpretive power out of the roaming preachers and neighborhood churches and into councils, clerks, and the imperial hands. What counts as scripture or translation or text wasn't self-evident. It was voted on, disputed, and bureaucratically managed by some of the most powerful people, with the wording changed. Weird apocalypses, hundreds of other gospels got filtered out along with many other testaments that just didn't fit the narrative of the select few in power. The result is a Polish, portable religion you can tax, standardize, and brand, and then sell to masses to establish control. And ask yourself whose voices would have been amplified at that point by some of those most powerful people. Was it the wandering prophets going village to village? Or entities with power, with own agendas and hunger for more power? Once the book was consolidated and under a tight control, the holy wars began by invading and forcefully converting and taxing those people. And all of this under guidance of the church that had an immense power. I already hear some of you screaming at me, heresy, unwilling to open your minds and eyes and realize that you could be wrong. If so, the ego and the evil in you will not let you hear the full message in this video. But I still hope some of you may. Christianity is the world's most splintered faith. Thousands of branches and denominations: Catholics, Orthodox, Baptists, Pentecostals, Lutherans, Jehovah's, Methodists, and so on. And all claim the Bible as the authority. Yet each branch sees totally different messages in the same text. And then each church of that branch and each country as well interprets passages differently, as long as it's within a set rules defined by those in charge of that denomination. And then there are thousands of New Age religions as well that pop up every year, making millions of dollars in book sales, or quite often requiring patrons to serve the cult leader in a tightly knit communities, almost always with a lot of sexual abuse by the men in charge. Each church accuses the other ones of blasphemy and crimes. If it wasn't so tragic, it would have been hilarious. You ever wonder why there are so many branches or even so many churches, the same branch all over the place? Because everyone in the chain, like the Pope, the patriarchs, your Sunday minister, and the other, are basically pre-programmed on how to interpret the Bible. They teach you what to think before you even read a single word of the Bible. You come to the church and you hear the minister's own interpretation, approved by that exact branch. In fact, I've literally seen churches sack ministers who dare to say something outside the control narrative. Step out of the sandbox and bam, you're gone. So why would you believe any of those churches? And if in their holy godliness they can't even agree on what's right in one book. Meanwhile, the Bible is right in front of you and begs you to read it. You. Let's touch up on icons, crosses, statues many Orthodox and Catholics pray to. The idols represent Jesus, Mary, angels, and random other people who lived hundreds of years ago, and then random people after in the church decided to name as saints. In Exodus 20, you shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything. You shall not bow down to them. What part of this clear message did they not understand? Did it sound like a suggestion or a command? Yet look at Catholic or Orthodox Mass. Statues and icons everywhere. Mary, saints, angels, baby Jesus on a stick. And the Catholic Church will spit on you when you call them out on idolatry they're committing. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that it's okay to pray to icons, crosses, or even bones of some dead people. Church tells you to pray to. Yes, millions of those icons and crosses are sold, and many more are blessed for a donation fee each year. Dude, all of those people praying to those pictures. Oh, Mary, save me. Oh, Gabriel, bring me peace. Or Santa Rita, a widow who became a nun once upon a time. Help me. Hey, get that candle from the church store and put it in front of St. Nicholas' icon, and he'll help you with your cause. Revelation 19 and 22 clearly tells you not to pray to angels, as they are just like servants. And again, what part of it was so difficult to read? Or did anyone actually read it? Oh, but I'm praying to angels only to mediate. Well, if so, I say to you, what is wrong with you? You're still praying to it. Don't you get it? You still physically close your eyes and you pray to them. Think about it for a second, without emotions, and you will see the irony. Again, nobody reads the Bible too long, too hard. I know. I read the whole thing. It's long. It's very difficult to read if you aren't reading it, but also trying to understand each sentence. If Bible was released today as a regular book, it would have never made it to the New York's bestsellers list. And Goodreads reviews would have been horrible. The church was so busy collecting money from the nations and from all the sale of those relics and icons for centuries. They just couldn't care less about the actual word and the facts. And the fact that dead are dead just because you want some random dead guy or girl to help you. No amount of candles, holy water, or incense will help you, because the world just doesn't work this way. And the church just made it up. Each year, people kiss popes, ring, travel thousands of miles to see holy bones, kiss the clergy's hands, or holy books, holy crosses, holy statues on holy grounds, be sprayed by the holy water, and pray to holy people on man-made holy paintings. They pray to those man-made relics and ask for God's favors, believing God is a Santa Claus, giving miracles to those who've been good. Ho, ho, ho. You think God cares whose hands you've kissed versus who you've helped that day out of your kind heart? Do you believe you will go to heaven because you spent a small fortune traveling from your country to visit a holy site? Or maybe the person who used those spare weeks to volunteer at a homeless shelter and used that fortune to buy food for people in need. Maybe that's the person to notice. And please don't misunderstand me. I'm not pissing on people praying in a crisis. I'm accusing an architectural design that took your personal heartache, guilt, and made it a predictable revenue through customs, useless rituals, and made rules that don't serve God in any way. And if you aren't sure, ask yourself, is my action right now serving God? Or am I serving myself, my ego, or other people? Let's talk about praying to Mary for a minute. Millions pray to her probably daily. The Bible never tells you to pray to Mary at all. She was a human like you and I, probably 16, maybe 15 years old. She wasn't even noble enough to volunteer herself to be the mother of Jesus. I mean, who knows? Maybe she would have even refused if God actually gave her a choice. She was basically forced into it. Do I get to be in those icons if I put a baby in me against my will? Or would I be just studied in Area 51? And yet some churches have priests granting her saint status and embellishing altars. She isn't in charge of the complaints department. Nor does she work for the heavens call center taking your wishes. Nowhere in the Bible does it say so. Hi, this is Mary speaking. How can I help you today with your marriage? Oh, hey, Mary, it's John. Can you ask God to help me? You know what Mary would say? John, really? Go get some balls and start praying to God, just like He told you to do so. Don't call me anymore, so I can start getting some sleep and enjoy heaven. And while millions pray to dead people, God's commandments say not to pray to anyone but Him. So either the Bible is wrong or these traditions are. A lot of churches have rules and customs made up by people. No makeup, you must wear a dress, the clergy wears some king-level golden dresses, and head coverings like they're kings. Some prohibit any dancing, calling it sinful, while other churches sing and dance nonstop. In some churches, women can come as they are, while others require all women to cover the head with a scarf, which follows the old Roman man-made rule on how women should appear in public. At the end of the day, I can't see God sitting there and judging people based on whether they wore a scarf or how flashy the priest's robes are. People made those up and memorized those rules better than the actual word in the Bible. And then they give out judgment lawsuits to those who don't obey. Then there's confession. Confession was originally a personal act of repentance, honesty, humility. Jesus told his disciples in John 20:23, if you forgive anyone's sins, their sins are forgiven. Catholic leaders read that passage addressed to the 12 chosen ones and took it as a sign to build a forgiveness business where anyone who come to the church will be forgiven by their church's priests. And of course, with the donation involved, or because you ain't no asshole for not helping out those who give you forgiveness. And hey, what if it won't come true if you aren't generous, right? Modern churches wield billions of dollars, building bigger buildings, while actual poor people are still waiting for soup kitchens. It seems the message of Jesus, humility, charity, and the act of forgiveness got lost in all the marketing. The church was literally selling forgiveness. Those were called indulgences. And this is how the church funded itself for a very long time. It's in the history books, by the way, if you've missed the class. I've met a lot of devoted Christians who would do absolutely awful things to other people, yet they were okay with their actions because all they were convinced, due to the generational programming, that all they had to do is go and confess. A lot of people in the narco cartels are devoted Catholics. They'll kill 100 people, but then they will build a church or donate. They will continue their actions. Again, since nobody reads the Bible, the repentance part was completely missed. Someone said, religion is the opium of people, a sweet sedative that keeps the crowds compliant. Nobody needs a PhD to know that if you preach fear of hell, not to rebel or do wrong, and also then tell the poor that you can go to heaven if you're rich anyways, and give them hope of heaven, and there you go. The system where the rich stay rich and the poor stay in line and don't rebel against the rich. Or if you're a Muslim man, you may get 30 virgins. Because, sex with girls who've never had sex and don't know what they're doing is apparently awesome. Oh, those incels. Once you step back to see the bigger picture, the puzzle starts to fall apart. You begin to notice how guilt is marketed, how fear is repackaged as morality, and how our entire civilization is run on the illusion that obedience equals goodness. And this is where our story begins today. Because faith and science have both turned into business, both selling certainty. But maybe the real work is to find the raw signal. Let's talk about atheism. I'll start by saying it doesn't cost you anything to believe in a possibility that God exists. At the very least, it's a rational thinking. Here's something rarely gets said. Atheists built their own version of the same system. Atheists deny God because they say there is no proof. Yet they accept dozens of scientific phenomena with no direct proof, only theories, concepts, math models, and philosophies. Instead of priests, you get celebrity scientists and influencers. Instead of hymns, you get TED Talks with theme music. Instead of have faith and trust God, you get trust me. Trust the data I created. Trust my follower count. Trust my education. Trust my logic because I teach at university, so I must be smart. Even when half of the data contradicts itself the next month and the month after. We traded one kind of certainty for another. And we are terrified to say, I just don't know. Come on, my little atheists. Say it with me. I don't know. You have nothing to lose if you believe, and at the very least, try to be better once in a while. And if you die, you rot on the ground, at least you weren't a piece of shit for the people around you. Yet if you're right, you may get to see a better world in the afterlife. Does that sound rational? Yes or no, my dear PhD professor spitting at your screens right now at all the stuff I am telling you? Logically, atheism doesn't make any sense. It's a narrow-minded vision that there is just you and you just die. There's not a possibility of a deity that has control over you. Atheist has no proof of their concept and still using your own judgment and whatever the 100 IQ that was given to you to use on that judgment call. And if that individual was blessed by the monkey ancestors of yours with an extra IQ point or two, you may realize it's the same faith concept, yet with zero evidence. Many atheists say they're open thinkers, but they'll rigidly reject any possibility of the divine or even the slightest chance of a higher order. They remind me of a stubborn kid who got a toy taken away. Daddy, if you loved me, you'd buy me that new Lego set and an ice cream. And when nothing comes, they decide he must hate me if he can't even buy me ice cream. Instead of asking, why did this happen? Is there a lesson to learn? Is there a reason, maybe? Nope. Out of goes God. And in comes cynical bitterness of a spoiled child who didn't get his way and now must rely on himself, his hard work, to earn enough to buy that ice cream. How rational. How scientific. It's comical that some atheists will mock religion, often have no problems clutching into fantasies like aliens, multiverses, ghosts, werewolves, black holes, magic, and the movie The Matrix. Sitting there trying to bend that spoon until their eyes are bleeding. Bend it, damn it. I am the one. However, the very same atheists who deny God also may not shy away from believing he lives in a simulated reality made by other people. They'll insist there's intelligence out there, somewhere in the universe, yet deny the concept of an ultimate intelligence or being born with a purpose on our own planet. In other words, they don't know shit, but still pretend to have all the answers, using a very limited brain capacity to rationalize it. They cherry pick facts that fit their own preconceived biases, then refuse to consider any evidence or a possibility of God. They believe that there is a black hole billions of miles away with some another alien race living in it. But they mock a book written 2,000 years ago that says, hey, my dad sent you out here because you were pretty naughty to the core. But if you try to be kinder to one another, he'll take you back, and I'm here to help you. The simulation or matrix theory is pretty interesting. In recent years, the simulation hypothesis has captured the imagination of so many people. The idea that the world might be an advanced computer simulation, and a matrix-like reality in which we are essentially living in a designated world, sort of like a virtual reality game. The idea that essentially proposes a near-distant future where our technology and the AI is advanced enough to create fully immersive virtual universe or universes, indistinguishable from the reality. The idea that strangely is being supported by even the atheists who don't believe in God. It's important to note, however, that if someone creates you in that reality, then in this case, that someone is an intelligent designer. Or can we use the word creator? Or God? Gods? They had enough knowledge and power to create such a complex world, then they are perhaps a god. The simulation theory probably started around 1960s with an idea, and then the movie The Matrix, and then with the advancement of virtual reality and the AI, this really took off and became clear we soon may be capable of doing this. We can create our own worlds filled with self-thinking AIs living in that reality. Thus, the atheists who consider simulation theory technology possible should recognize that their own argument points to a godlike creator. Can we be living in a matrix? Well, essentially, yes, we are in it. It could be the matrix, it could be our future self, or God infused our bodies with a soul. And since you are in one, then you need to understand that everything you have been taught since childhood has been carefully designed to keep you functioning in that system of reality, in a system that cannot survive if you begin to asking questions, real questions. Most atheists claim to follow only science, since it's the real truth. But science is not always based on facts or evidence. And facts can change daily or monthly based on the available evidence. So essentially, the facts aren't real facts, and thus not the real truth. Scientific understanding in nutrition, as an example, changes monthly. Hormones get reinterpreted every few years. New research contradicts old research on a daily basis. Eggs used to be healthy, then deadly, then healthy again. Saturated fats used to be evil, then redeemable. Coffee destroyed your heart, then saved it, then hurt again. What was good for you a year ago apparently will give you a cancer by tomorrow. This is human science to you. But then the same people who cannot figure out coffee or wine or milk, which is right in front of them, try to pretend they understand the makeup of the universe, God, or the universe billions of lights away. The arrogance is astonishing. Nowadays, scientists love speculating on whatever they can poop out because it keeps the grants flowing along with our $200,000 salaries and multi-million-dollar book deals. We've got theories on top of theories. Dark matter, dark energy, string theory, multiverses, and so on and on and on. None of this is or was ever proven. Yet the same scientists who insist on peer reviews of the work and yell the evidence in your face will also go, yep, the whole universe started from the Flash. Trust me on that one, I know. And God? Oh, please, people. There is no God. There's only science. I'll peer review their hypocrisy and arrogance any day. Take the Big Bang. No one actually physically seen the Big Bang. It's inferred from a leftover glow called the cosmic microwave background. They call it a solid evidence how everything began. We interpret data through theory lenses. None of our fancy telescopes take actual pictures in visible light of creation. They gather radio waves and microwave fuzz, then we Photoshop a story. Many people believe those fancy galaxy photographs are all real. Well, we created a program how to interpret the received data. Then we use a software to generate those images. And then once those are generated, we combine hundreds of those images together. And if you've ever done any astrophotography, you at least know a little bit on how it's done. However, it's way more complicated the way they do it. The Milky Way reconstruction, as an example, is full-on digital representation. Did you know that? And the black holes? You know, it's hilarious. These astrophysicists talking about black holes like they've personally flew there and seen it with their own eyes. They look you straight in the eye and say, oh, we know they exist. We've heard them merge. Yeah, through instruments that translate mathematical guesses and pre-built models into a few squiggly lines on a screen. And somehow that's proof. That's not proof. That's a concept based on our own limited understanding of the data we receive. We can't even figure out the simple shit in front of us, but we're supposed to believe the astronomers and astrophysicists nail down the physics of something billions of light years away? Huh. Oh, please. Half of our data is actually a digital noise run through pre-programmed algorithms that spit out whatever we already expect to see, and based on our pre-programmed theory. That's not science, and more like modern religion with modern fancy graphics. We barely explored the depths of our ocean, know very little about our own bodies and medicine, yet we apparently know so much about stuff billions of miles and years away. How interesting. Meanwhile, if you whisper, maybe there's a higher consciousness behind all of this, they'll laugh at you. Like, come on. You people state 95% of the universe is dark matter, dark energy, which essentially means you have no clue what it is. And somehow I'm the one who's wrong, who believes in a fairy tale book and an intelligent being in charge of me. Okay, let's talk about the observer effect, which has been proven to exist through many scientific studies. Observer effect has been proven to exist through many scientific studies, with the newest one in 2025. Quantum mechanics is a strange beast. A renowned physicist once said, "Until you look, his cat is both alive and dead." Quantum stuff truly only collapses into reality only when observed by someone or something. Some interpretation even imply our consciousness creates a reality or realities. In basic English, until we peak, the reality is a blur. Only observation of our mind turns possibilities into facts. So the quantum world is basically a reality of endless possibilities, with everything waiting for an audience. I'm not saying there aren't any rules or laws, but it makes you think. And it also leads you to understand how little we know so far. But hey, the same skeptic that believes in endless possibilities in the quantum world, laughing at a possibility of God overseeing all of this. Go figure. I want to talk about evolution for a second. I love history, and I spent years reading books on evolution. And the more I read, the more I realized that it's complete garbage. Yes, we did find around 8 types of bones, so in theory, there were possibly 8 human-like species who lived between now and 4 million years ago. Out of those thousands of various bones we found, none of them were actually transitions. Again, using basic common sense, it is strongly being implied that it is likely they were different species and eventually died out as they were too dumb to exist. Or maybe they got killed or ate each other. Who knows? Well, there are thousands of fossils of Homo serenus and thousands of Neanderthals. Some of those older ones, at times, were identified by just a couple of extremely partial bones. A couple of bones. Partial bones. Ouch. Tell me, what is more likely, that based on 2 partial skeletons, we found a completely new species of prehumans, or they found what they wanted to find, and then in reality it was just a deformed ape whose parent accidentally stepped onto a uranium mine. Ate bird shit, got sick, and their babies, well, let's just say they were bullied in their tribe a lot for their looks. And there are, even in recent years, enough examples where deformed bones were wrongly identified. Essentially, the theory of evolution collapses the more you dig into it, and the more you analyze all the actual data we have with logic and not emotions or drive to get a Nobel Prize for your findings. What? Are you really going to tell me people get into science to better humanity and not for their ego? If so, you must also believe people go into politics because they love their country and the people in it. Ugh. Oh, you little ignorant baby. And if you ask me, I'm not denying those bones. I'm not that stupid. Rather than random gradual evolution, which has zero physical proof, human origins seem to reflect a targeted genetic intervention that could be deliberate or natural, but still directed, that produced rapid leaps in cognition, bone structure, and movement. That pattern suggests that each species represents a completely different phase of intentional genetic manipulation in completely different experiments and rapid mutations, be it a divine intervention from God or an advanced extraterrestrial beings, or maybe an alien-like space virus that arrived from a distant galaxy billions of miles away, carrying foreign matter that ate our stupid but kind brains that worship the sun and dance around the fire and made us into murderous species who want to kill, control, cheat, steal, and watch TikTok. Is it all a coincidence? Our world is absurdly perfect for life. Earth distant from the sun, gravity, water cycle, Jupiter as comet shield, even the bees pollinating our crops. It sure looks designed to me. By the way, 1/3 of the global crops depend on bees. Wow. Each species out there, like microbes and mountains, wind, our own gut bacteria, seem to be a cog in a giant clock, designed to work in a symbiotic manner with everything else. Sure, we can call it just a coincidence, if you want, but evolution alone doesn't explain a lot of things. It's laughable that anyone who chalks up all of this to a series of lucky coincidences yet calls believing in the creator blind faith. Let's add some religion into science. NDE, or near-death experience. We're going to move to something a bit weird that actually shakes people up. I have so much data on this, I wanted to create a separate video that would have probably been about half an hour. In short, people die, come back to life a few minutes later, and during this time they experience various visions with people, deep messages, and being able to observe their own body lying on the operating table or the floor, and later describe what had happened in the same room or rooms nearby when they had their eyes closed and when they were pronounced dead. That's the short version. Near-death experiences are messy for many reasons, but they're not imaginary stories. They've shown up in peer-reviewed literature and big studies, and there are tens of thousands of those reports across the globe from all countries, from people from all walks of life, from little kids in Zambia to brain and heart surgeons in the United States, from devoted Christians to Muslims, Buddhists, and atheists, to random Joe Schmo who lived his life on a farm in China and had no time or knowledge to even think about this. Aware, it's the name of the large-scale project, among many others, recorded that a small portion of cardiac arrest survivors report awareness compatible with out-of-body experience, and some describe verifiable events that occurred while they were clinically dead. The University of Virginia also documented thousands of cases of young children reporting memories of previous lives with verifiable facts. These aren't stories from internet people posted. They're medical subjects with interviews, protocols, and follow-ups. The pattern across culture looks less like a random hallucination and more like a genuine experience that calls for more explanation and more attention. I've asked ChatGPT to find all reports across the internet from all countries, all religions, separate them into countries and religions to see if there is a difference between what people see based on their age, their origin, religion, background, and other aspects. I also wanted to know if atheists report this too. It took GPT an entire week to do it, and it stopped me midway to ask me if I sure wanted to continue because it's an unusual request and it's very lengthy. It requires a lot of computational power. That was a little funny. Anyhow, after reading the long report and the data, it was very clear that while some who had these NDEs talked to dead relatives, others saw angel-like beings or Jesus, or saw light or voices, 99% of them had very similar messages. 99% of them had very similar messages that they brought back with them and had overall similar experience. One, they all felt being surrounded by love. too. They often were told it's not their time yet, but some were given a choice whether to return or stay there. 3. As I try to dig deep into the received messages and their asked questions, the key takeaway, pretty much unanimous from all of them, was love others, care for others, try to be good, grow, forgive, and you are here for a reason. And then more and more, it was all pretty much about love. People come back radically different from these experiences with different priorities. Reduced fear of death, more interest in love, and less interest in trivial status games or money. That consistency across cultures and faith is data that demands intellectual attention and not mocking. According to received messages, serving others is what gives us true happiness. And we know this already. Sharing the wealth, the knowledge, and yourself with others is ultimately what brings happiness. And we know this already, according to science. The true happiness is finally realizing you already have more than enough. Daily gratitude for all of those things. And practicing balance in every aspect of your life. I'll refrain giving my own indie story, but it was life-changing. Maybe let's talk about reincarnation. Many religions out there hold that souls re-enter life in cycles, determined by karma, until our liberation. Evidence here is mostly experimental, anecdotal, and cultural. Modern parapsychology points many intriguing cases of children remembering past lives, as I mentioned earlier. Interestingly, I was one of those kids myself, but I was labeled a liar. And right now I just remember some glimpses of my emotional outbursts as I was yelling, "I remember, I was there," before getting yelled at for making up stories and lying. I guess my parents back then didn't know how to react to a 4-year-old kid who would suddenly, while watching a boring news on TV about a random place, would say shit like this. And no, right now I can't remember anything. I'd say it is similar to dreams though. Some people claim they don't dream, and I don't believe that is true. They simply cannot remember. In fact, I've tested this theory as I do write down some of my dreams. At times, all I remember is writing something at night or taking my phone out to record a voice note. There were so many instances as I'm relieving myself at night and recalling an amazing adventure. And by the time I would finish peeing, I already cannot remember anything at all. Our minds just erase it all within seconds. So it's entirely possible we get reincarnated in the same or different lives, or maybe parallel Earths, or maybe our souls transfer between good or bad Earths, depending on how we behave. As we know, the absolute power corrupts. And you can be a Nelson Mandela or Abraham Lincoln in one life, bringing peace and prosperity, or you could be enraging people into killing each other, like Hitler, Mao Zedong, or Putin. So why do people believe in the wrong things, and what does it have to do with hell? Let's talk. What's the common thread through all of this mess? Institution? Science? Weird anomalies? The answer nudges all of it towards the 3 things: control, consolidation, and cognitive laziness. Organized religion offered consolation, then sold control. Atheism offered clean model of the world, and then made arrogance into virtue. Science offered practical, testable methods through models that change what instruments do. The poor masses and the elite ended up with 2 fake certainties. The church has the truth, Science has the truth. But what if none of them are correct? Or what if all of them have some merit? What if I told you that we are already in hell? In fact, the original Hebrew manuscripts never had the word hell. And once the Bible was altered and consolidated, some of the text was changed to create a narrative. And that included the addition of the word hell into it. In some instances, the original text of the Bible didn't even have the word church. It actually doesn't have the word devil either. That's a provocative claim, but a real one. If you dig deep enough and read. And if you're after the truth, you'd be a coward not to explore a possibility of all of this being the truth. After reading the Bible cover to cover, the idea became clear in a new way to me. What if Jesus didn't go to some imaginary semi-paradise called Earth just to die? What if Son of God descended into our mess, our rot, and our burning place to show us how to redeem ourselves from within? Can the church be lying about Earth not being hell while knowing all of this? Well, hypothetically speaking, it is entirely possible that the church, or those who put the Bible manuscripts together, destroy that information or any references that the earth is hell and the place where you are separated from God, essentially. But why? Why would anyone do such a thing? Well, I have an answer. It would be extremely hard to control people when everyone knew since childhood that they are already in hell and will have to endure a lot of suffering for the whole life. That there is no God here, and the possibility they'll be reborn to the same or maybe even worse type of suffering for trillions of years over and over. Just think about it for a second. Imagine it. Truly, I tell you, your mind is now resisting imagining this. That's how we are designed. We were either not designed or programmed to know this information, or we are equipped to deal with the emotions that this knowledge brings. And most people psychologically would be depressed, angry, with no hope, because essentially there is no hope in hell. And many think suicide rates now are very high, at around 1 million, maybe, give or take, per year. And suicide often the results of complete loss of purpose and meaning, right? But imagine when you know the truth. And if people would know that there is no other hell and dying is the way out to something else, or a possibility of being possibly reborn, it would be catastrophic. People would just kill themselves by many millions every month once things would get tough, just to get reborn in hopes into the same life before they had any challenge. And the purpose of living would become meaningless for many people. Just think about this. Knowing that you may have done this millions or billions of times before, and you have a possibility of continuing to do this, our society would have a social and moral collapse. This is one of the reasons this theory would never be accepted by the church or any government, as they would lose control. The governments would fight with all they have to make this truth never to be known. Again, it is possible there is an order or people or government who already know this, but they would never share this information with the masses. Never. Just think about this theory. It cannot be shared. Again, your brain is probably fighting with this right now and saying bullshit as you watch this. Your own brain is refusing to even think of this as a possibility. And again, it is programming. I'll give you a quick scenario if you think such programming is impossible. Take Ukraine versus Russia as an example of control through narrative programming. One government of Russia carefully created a narrative of your own brothers and sisters in Ukraine you liked just months ago suddenly being Nazis and Nazi worshippers. Then carefully crafted propaganda messages and established full control of the media while jailing anyone disagreeing. One message on all media channels with one narrative. Millions turned to hate, picked up arms to fight those mythical Nazis and die for some piece of land most of them have never seen or will ever see or want to see. North Korea is another example where there's absolute control of every word of information. And a country is brainwashing people to believe their leader is God. And they're ready to suffer in hunger and die for their leader. Come on now. You still think programming and brainwashing is impossible? Hell is already here. One of the most chilling verses is Proverbs 1, verse 28. They will call me, but I will not answer. They will seek me, but will not find me. That sounds exactly like people praying for help in a world where answers rarely come. And hell doesn't need to be flames and pitchforks and devil with horns burning people alive over a fire while they're screaming and unable to die. That's the cartoon and Hollywood narrative to sell movie theater tickets, or mothers trying to scare little children to listen and to be good. Jesus said hell is fire, but he also said hell is darkness. How can it be both? The Hollywood never read the Bible and didn't realize Jesus loved speaking in metaphors to get his message across to stupid people who may just be okay suffering and too lazy to change. What's in the Bible actually perfectly describes our lives. Hell is a description of conditions, insidious, pervasive suffering, systemic injustice, corruption, deception, temptation, a reality where meaning of life is obscured by institution and narratives. Look around you. The good is being punished, jailed, and killed. And the human heart corrupted daily by repeat choices that produce psychological torment within us. The evil is all around us, from lying politicians sweet-talking you into voting because he knows how to stop wars, sexually abuse little girls, to your school's teacher who crushes your creativity and dreams, your friends that gossip and make up stories about you, or that self-love YouTube influencer selling fake courses with no experience that does more damage to you than good, or your dentist whose $300,000 salary isn't enough so that he or she is making up cavities when you have perfect teeth. It is very, very common, by the way, the last one. Or maybe a police officer who shoots an unarmed man because despite my training, I was so afraid for my life. Or modern media and journalists who clickbait you into fake titles and fake stories instead of getting to the truth. Maybe your professor who grades you on ideology instead of merit. Or a parent who controls children based on own ego and not what's actually good for the child. Or maybe your girlfriend or boyfriend who rewrites arguments until you doubt your own memory or sanity. Or even a kind bystander at an accident who films the suffering on camera but never intervenes to help. I can spend all day giving you these examples if you have time. So, what are some of the signs we are in hell? If most people's lives are patterns of pain, alienation, and meaningless repetition, then the label hell fits better than any sanitized Sunday school picture. Use the word literally or metaphorically. Either way, the data on human suffering is brutal. Nobody, and I mean nobody, on this earth is internally and perpetually happy. Throughout the biblical history to present day, we see non-stop wars, famine, destruction, betrayal, aging, systemic cruelty by everyone, from fathers and uncles to their own daughters, to little 7-year-old kids calling each other horrible names that scar you for life. This is Earth. The Earth is full of poverty, mental issues, diseases, suffering, cheating, divorces, or just our perpetually bored brain in a constant search of entertainment, where we can't be alone with our thoughts for just one day without a TV or our phones. Murders, lying, sexual abuse, heartbreaks, verbal abuse, diseases, and illnesses throughout our lives. Those are not minor inconveniences. Even our schools teach us pure evil garbage, designed for obedient zombie factory workers, with nothing about communication, finances, relationship, or life skills. Our brains are engineered for an unending pursuit of novelty, dopamine, and distraction. And I just named a few examples. All of these are signs of hellish conditions. And the more you add them, the clearer the picture becomes. This is the part where you want to laugh. Not because people are stupid, but because the whole setup is absurd. Absurd, and you are right now beginning to see the truth. And my job is to give you a seed, but it's your job to either grow it or throw it away. You should laugh because we're all complicit. You should laugh at the way the system seduces you and corrupts us from childhood. The promise of certainty in exchange for submission. After reading the whole Bible, it made sense that God's Son entered our realm, which Bible refers as flawed, damaged, decaying, and sacrificed himself. If you're God and sending your Son into perfect paradise, why sacrifice? I mean, soldiers sacrifice their lives for their country. Parents put their lives for their children all the time. What's the big deal, right? However, if you are God living in a perfect heaven and sending your Son into hell to live there experience their struggles, and be brutally killed. And then sacrifice makes sense. The sacrifice was him coming and experiencing our flawed lives and the fire of our emotions, the fire of our rage, jealousy, loss, and the choices that destroy our souls. Seeing how badly we are corrupt and burnt, wars that never end, children that starve, mental illness, rich people with money and power killing themselves because life should be good, but it isn't. Nature itself decaying, species vanish, habitats collapse, human body ages, fails, dies, war, cheating, betrayals, poverty, heartbreak. Same in 2025, 2026, as it was 200 or 2000 years ago. A lot of suffering. If hell is just after you die, then explain now. Explain the hundreds of millions of people who suffer and die today in God's world. So you lived in Africa and poverty, was killed by rebels, and now you will go to another hell to be tortured for eternity by a loving God who sent his only son? Really? No, please. Do you see how it makes no sense? If you don't see it, reread it until it clicks. God is not evil. He does not want us to suffer here forever and ever after because you made a mistake at some point. If you believe in that, then the whole Bible falls apart. Now, as a world, was perfectly designed from the moon that controls our climbing to bees and ocean's ecosystem and everything in our body to work as a part of the big clock, then perhaps it is fair to assume our existence here is not a coincidence, and the suffering here isn't an accident either, but a part of a story or a lesson for us to experience and learn from. If we use the observer effect mentioned, that influences matter when observed by consciousness, then maybe that implies we control our reality. And in some way, in our own consciousness, we have the way to escape this hellish reality as well, which brings us to choice and free will. You have a choice to live here on earth, possibly through rebirth forever, and suffer forever, or listen to what God says, as He gave us the key to escape. God gave us all our free will to do what we want. But as we know, with free will and actions come consequences. Because doing what you want isn't necessarily good for you or anyone around you. Free will also means your actions are on you. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called free will. It would be called supervised will. Or your will is only free until you cross the line. No. We were all given full freedom. Full freedom here to do what we want and then reap the rewards or consequences of those choices. People love blaming God for all this suffering, but humans make all the decisions here that cause the suffering. We wage wars because of human greed. Millions of children die each year from starvation because of human politics. Millions of people die each year from obesity because of overindulgence too. Tens of millions of people get oppressed each year because of human ego. Every day you wake up with a choice to get up, a choice to brush your teeth, to work, to eat. You can then use those 16 hours to do what you want, what you desire. Just try to understand that in this world, every action has a reaction, since this isn't a virtual reality game with no consequences. And there are no cheat codes to use here. Humans love blaming God for things they don't support or they don't like. Because blaming someone else is much easier than you taking a charge of your action. So maybe it's time to stop floating aimlessly, asking God to steer your boat, as He will not do this, as it will end the free will that you were given. So how do we escape, right? That's a good question. Well, first, congrats in being in hell. I hope you're enjoying it. Let's see if there's a way out of it, though. God sends His Son into our conditions to show what escape looks like, to break the cycle. And all it takes is love and kindness. The end. Thanks for listening. Okay, I think you aren't sold. I found Hebrews 2:14 fascinating, though it may sound complicated to some. He shared in their humanity, so that by His death He might break the power of him who holds the power of death, that is the devil, and free those who are all their lives were held in slavery, but their fear of death. If death is the penalty, fear is the prison, then the world where death is normal, it is already the prison. Jesus' resurrection is the blueprint of exit, and His sacrifice is the cost of the journey. I get if you aren't totally sold and still confused, though. Maybe you watch the news right now and ask, if there is loving God, why is this allowed? The war in Ukraine, the Israel and Gaza, the famine, and exterminations of thousands daily in Africa, year after year, the horrible people with dementia as presidents of entire countries, just the fact that you may lost a loved one or experience daily medical pain yourself. Why is a loving God would do this? I'll give you a few options, but you have a free will to make your decision. 1, perhaps it's Thessalonians 1:9. They will be punished with everlasting destruction and shut out from the presence of the Lord. Basically, we are fucked. God cannot hear you, and you're suffering in proportion to your previous sins. 2, God isn't doing any of this. We are. Nobody forced you to elect your president, choose your job you hate, eat at McDonald's until you are 300 pounds, and have a heart attack at 40. God didn't tell you to ignore the horrible suffering of other people around you because it doesn't directly target you. We create our own hell by our own actions or inactions. In fact, I would argue that most people live in a constant mental hell by choosing to worry about the distant future or reenacting that fight with your friend, your coworker, your spouse, your boyfriend or girlfriend over and over, marinating in it until you cry yourself to sleep hours later. Did God or anyone else force you? No. You made the decision on your own, out of your free will. And if so, maybe you also can do something about it to change it. 3, all things you see as punishment isn't really a punishment, but an invitation for a lesson. Stay with me here. Take a parent losing a child, or someone in the Middle East or Ukraine losing loved ones because of a bomb that flew into your apartment. And I'm sorry, these are absolutely horrible examples. And I can't even imagine the pain any of those people are going through. But I want to use them because those are great examples. Those people suffering in those conditions still have a choice. A, they can get angry, curse God for allowing this, and go on a John Wick type of revenge campaign. It may bring them a sweet smile as they laugh at their adversaries when they're dead. However, in the process, let's face it, they will lose a part of their soul. They will no longer be the kind people they were before. There's not even a question about it. You're now that vengeful person with hate in your soul and maybe blood on your hands. B, you can quietly meditate, pray, turn to your loved ones for support, and ask yourself, well, what's the purpose of this? Is the loving God trying to punish me for something? Or there's a lesson God wants me to learn maybe. Maybe God designed this challenge to see what you will do, just like in the book of Job. Maybe God and Jesus can't wait for you to make the right decision and finally escape this earth. Perhaps, and I'm very sorry to say, and I know it sounds horrible, but perhaps that child or a family member that you've lost was here for you. God sent you in those horrible conditions. And perhaps that child was sent to you in the sole purpose to see if you will get angry and curse God and everyone else, or you will make a choice to stay good, stay kind to yourself, to others, and perhaps choose not the path of revenge and an eye for an eye cruelty. God allows tyrants like Hitler, Putin, and many others who had killed and jailed millions or may have wronged you because they are serving their own purpose in this hell. Yet your days are filled with thinking how you would murder these people. And just so you know, your anger has no effect on their lives. And you are the one who is suffering from mental breakdowns and from depression with no effect on them. And you are the one who is able to overcome this by still staying human and maybe even praying for them. Which do you think will ultimately bring your long-term peace? A wish of death or torture on someone, or wishing someone will become a better person and find light, even when it's impossible in your eyes. Impossible in your eyes. One will bring you momentary dopamine filled with dark happiness as you infuse yourself and your soul in hate while failing to fall asleep and essentially destroying your own humanity. Or the one where you and your soul staying kind. And if you're a Christian, following that Bible and praying, reflect on all of your past years of life for 5 minutes. Don't tell me the struggles you had or all those breakups, the tears, the bad experiences. We can just shove them off and blame others, or we can reflect on each one of those and see why you had to go through that. So what did you learn? And I guarantee you, if you will do this, you will see that each challenge in your life was there for a reason. Each one of those. Matthew 7:13 talks about choosing the narrow path and the fact that only few will choose it. Are you the one of the few? In fact, do you know why people don't change, especially when they get older? Because change is very hard. It may require therapy, hours of crying, hard work on yourself and your emotions, and your dedication for months or even years. The alternative, of course, is just be yourself as you are, and many shitty psychologists will help you with that, as they will tell you how great you are, how amazing you are. So you stay angry, shut down, put yourself on a pedestal, and blame others, and continue living with that pain, which often will spill into those around you. So what is the purpose of suffering? I think we moved from fun and science to something very, very uncomfortable at this point. And at this point, you've learned that people want God to be janitor, who just forgives you no matter how much piece of shit you are, or maybe be a genie who grants you prayer wishes. I mean, true. Yet if you actually read the Bible without church programmed glasses and look at your life, you will see that suffering is the operating source code of transformation. Without suffering, there would be no lessons, no self-improvement, and life would be a fairy tale. Yet the earth was designed to put you through hell so that you can learn the lesson prepared for your soul. And as such, you should not pray for a happy life or easy life, and that God will hear you. But pray for challenges to make you grow. Pray with gratitude, saying, "Thank you, Lord, I'm still here, and I will endure your challenge and grow." In Romans 5, Paul says, "We glory in our sufferings because we know that the suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope." It's a psychological law. Pain rewrites you. But the church and the Hollywood and the new age manifestation gurus from Instagram all try to delete that part because it doesn't sell well. So everyone is just praying for a dopamine-dominated happy life for the next 60 years. You want a heaven-like life, but we don't want to sweat and do any work. So again, don't pray for a happy life. Pray for a power to withstand the challenges and not to fail. Pray for that. Pray and ask God for challenges to help you grow and become a better person. 1 Corinthians 10 says, God will not let you be tempted beyond what you can handle. So you have the power already to handle any and all challenges. As there is no light without darkness, there is no happiness without suffering. Our brains can't fully understand happiness until we understand what suffering is. It's one of the oldest teachings, and it gave the roots and a foundation of our modern psychology today. In Isaiah 45:7, God says, I form the light and I create darkness. I bring prosperity and create disaster. I, the Lord, do all of those things. Satan isn't a creator of darkness. God is. He is the light and he is the darkness. And there is no mythical fight of God and Satan for superiority. That's laughable nonsense out of Hollywood to sell you entertainment. And the Satan? Well, that's you. You're the Satan, your own thoughts driven by your own free will. Nobody is sitting on your shoulder, whispering to your ear to steal, to cheat, to lie, to kill. So stop blaming others. You, from the moment you're a child to the day you die, is being guided by your own free will. And each step you take in the wrong direction influences who you are and who you may become in 5, 10, 30 years down the road. And any and all decisions you will make are guided by those choices. The Bible uses the word Satan, which simply translates as adversary. How many times you've talked yourself out of something bad or good? How many times did you admit along the lines of, I wanted to do it, but then I talked myself out of it last minute? You can certainly blame the devil, evil spirits, demons, because it's so easy and comfortable to blame someone else. Because blaming someone is always easier than to admit to yourself, I fucked up and I made a wrong choice. I will try to do better next time. But in the world of next to zero emotional intelligence, this simple line is almost extinct. As Carl Jung, a psychiatrist and a founder of psychology, said, no tree can grow to heaven without root reaching to hell. And I love that quote, as it's very deep, pun intended. This quote quite literally tells you that the path to heaven is through understanding and confronting your own darkness and your own demons, your own capacity for greed, for cruelty, jealousy, your own temptations. Jesus had temptations as well. Jesus was tempted in the desert in Matthew 4 as his own dark, evil thoughts offered him this earth. Hey, maybe I shouldn't go back to heaven. I can just stay here, be rich, control and rule this earth. All I have to do is just say yes. He had his own temptation. He acknowledged them as a choice, and out of his own free will, he chose his path. Jesus conquered those dark thoughts, as we know, if you read the Bible. The evil is in you and all around us, whispering and tempting. You want to be a rich, loyal, and loving husband, but can you give him the same in return? You want maybe an amazing job with a great salary, but did you play computer games and watch the cute cats falling down on Instagram for the last 5 years? Or did you study hard in school? You want to be healthy, you want to look younger, but why did you smoke cigarettes, weed, drank alcohol, and barely slept in the last 10 years? You want to lose weight maybe, because you cannot get up right now, but are you at least trying to switch from a normal to a diet soda perhaps? You have a perfect, beautiful husband, but that coworker is getting cuter every day as you keep flirting with him, building that connection. Your wife is hot, but you keep watching porn because you just want more and more and different. This world is designed to keep you locked in. And every time your soul whispers to you, what am I doing with my life? The worldly momentary dopamine pleasures grab you and keep you sedated and in place. We're obsessed with comfort and with eternal youth without outsourcing every inconvenience we have, and we call it progress. But when you eliminate struggle, you also eliminate growth. Suffering is not proof of God's absence. It's proof that the story, your story, is still being written and you're still in it. Let's talk about Jesus again. When he was crucified, he didn't curse. He didn't even fight. He said, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. In Luke 23, read it 100 times until you see my next point. That it's not just forgiveness, but awareness of this world and the people in it, as we are all trapped here, brainwashed, angry, and we don't realize any of this or the consequences of our actions. Redemption isn't about escaping hell. First, it's about understanding while you're still here that you can take action. This is where the repentant comes in, as you acknowledge in your heart and in your action all of this. Jesus didn't descend into hell to just burn, but to show that the consciousness, pure love, survives it. Jesus showed us that love can survive hell. And if that's the case, then maybe you and I are meant to do the same. Descend, face our demons, fight the evil around it, including your own corrupt thoughts, and transform and rise. And that's loving God, that the Bible says He is. She is? No. God is Trinity, so God is they? I believe in Genesis 1:26, which says, let us make mankind in our image. You don't see that being preached that much. When your life falls apart, when you lose someone, when your mental health is at the lowest, when your dreams collapse, that's the descent. And that's just another trial for you. That's your cross to carry. And what you do with that pain decides your eternity. Not just after death, but right now in here. So yes, maybe this world is hell, but maybe it's also heaven's training ground. I mean, you don't curse mountain, you climb it. Or weights in the gym for being too heavy. Or a thriller not giving you the answers right away. Or a computer game level difficulty increases. You don't curse hunger. You learn to cook, right? You don't curse time. You learn the rhythm of life and patience. You stop cursing fire after you burn yourself for the first time, right? You don't curse a closed door. You just open it. You don't curse a marathon because it's too long. You trained for it. Then you take on that challenge. So then why curse life challenges? That includes all the horrible people on this earth, whether on TV or beside you, who you may think they don't deserve to live. Perhaps their whole NPC character, the whole reason for existence is being there to give you and others like you your trials in this life. So maybe the redemption isn't a priest forgiving your sins or God saving you. As you chant, God, you made me so imperfect. It's not my fault. Forgive my sins. But remembering that you have the divine God's force in you to do it if you choose. If you choose. If God gave you the free will, then He also gave you a choice and power. He isn't forcing you. He isn't telling you to love Him. You have to make that choice or reject or make that step yourself. So maybe hell isn't fire and demons from Hollywood. Maybe hell is being born into a world where we know enough to question everything here, but never enough to find peace, where nothing is ever enough for us, as we are never satisfied with what we have. We crave a marriage, then we can't wait to get out. We crave that perfect job, but we end up hating it. We chase a warm weather, but then complain that it's too hot. We move to a cold climate, but then complain it's too cold. We want a victory, but without a challenge, or perhaps an occasional defeat, that victory is meaningless to us. We crave fame, but then we get tired and it keep escaping into solitude. You crave being rich, but once we get it, we'll lose maybe our families in the process. Then finally understand money doesn't really bring you happiness. We dream of Maldives, but then after 1 week, we can't wait to leave as it gets boring there. We want validation and likes from millions, but then too late to realize that we just want to be liked and good enough for one person. and those closest to us. You want children only to discover parenting is brutal work. And as wonderful as kids could be, many parents realize that life would have been easier without them. We want money, but once we get them, we want more and more and more. Never enough, especially because we keep increasing our spending as we get more money. We chase beauty, novelty, youth, revenge, forgiveness, control, knowledge, closure, safety, risks. We keep chasing and wanting more and more all the time. One can be crying out of poor village in Africa about no food, while another is overdosing on antidepressants because all of your friends are living in a $20 million 10-bedroom mansions, while you can only afford a 4-bedroom, $2 million house. Jesus said, love your enemies in Matthew 5. But why? Without cruelty, there would be no compassion. And you can either keep feeding that darkness in you with hate, or you can forgive. And not in I'm a Christian, the chosen one, so I feel sorry for you and your dark, evil soul who will rot in hell for all of your crimes. Not that type of forgiveness, but a deep forgiveness where you mourn and say, what can I do to make your day better and bring your peace? Hate will breed hate, while love at least has a chance to ignite a spark and maybe light someone's soul. But our challenges to face, there would be no way to see whether your proclamation of love and being good and kind are real, or if those are just empty words. Since it's so easy to yell how you love God, how you love your neighbors, how you love your spouse and everyone around you. It's so easy to proclaim when your life is great, while you are high on dopamine and prosperous life. Try that when you're broken, damaged, bleeding, and sitting in ruins. And most fail and abandon their belief in God. But this is the ultimate test. Try saying, thank you, God. I still love you. I'm still alive. I'm okay. I'm okay. In those moments, you will finally understand the true faith. Every day you wake up and choose between creation and destruction, kindness and cruelty, truth or comfort. That's your battlefield, and it's your choice. And that's what God meant when he said, the kingdom of God is within you, in Luke 17. In practice, adopt humility towards what you don't know. Start with a daily gratitude to thank God for what you already have. Acknowledging millions or even maybe billions who do not have that. And if you're watching this video, you are already better than most people on this earth. If we just take financial, start looking to see how you can help others. And you don't even have to do much. A simple smile in an elevator can brighten someone's day. A thank you to a cashier for their service can make their job less hellish. And next time you feel like giving a finger to a driver who cut you off on a highway, maybe refrain, especially since maybe, just maybe, they're already struggling more than you, and there is a reason for their horrible behavior. So if you get any challenges, you take them on, and you grind through all of those challenges while smiling and staying kind to yourself and to others. And yes, those challenges and trials will not be fair. And I guarantee you some will be totally unjust to you. Guarantee you. You will be bruised and cut. You'll be bleeding. But with some effort, you will learn to heal, and you will love your way through all of those. And it's not just love for chocolate, good vibes, and a fine wine, but the true kind of love of forgiveness, self-awareness, compassion towards everyone on this planet. As all of us here are a part of God, and all of us are trapped here. And we should strive to help our fellow prisoners and our fellow brothers and sisters so that one day we all can escape this sweet, sweet prison called Earth. Peace.